Today we're going to talk about one aspect of personal fall arrest systems, which we think about probably to some degree, but we need to re-emphasize, and that has to do with figuring out the total fall clearance distance. Now, the whole idea of wearing a personal fall arrest system is to stop you before you strike the ground or another object below should you accidentally fall. A previous toolbox talk, and we've had these before, we've discussed about the length of your lanyard and the height of the anchor point. Certainly, we've talked about that in training. So the length of your lanyard, the height of the anchor point that you tie off to, are the two factors that determine the distance that you're going to free fall before your lanyard begins to slow your fall. However, there are a few other factors that play into how far you could ultimately fall, and this is usually referred to as the total fall distance. And total fall clearance distance calculations have to take into consideration these other factors in addition to your free fall distance. So these additional factors include your deceleration difference. Now this is, or distance rather. So your deceleration distance is the maximum extra distance a shock absorbing lanyard is designed to stretch or extend in order to decelerate or slow down your fall. Deceleration devices must be manufactured so the deceleration distance is no greater than 3.5 feet per OSHA regulations. Then the D-ring shift. This is the distance the D-ring moves and the harness shifts as they're jerked upwards when the lanyard begins to slow your free fall. This force results in the D-ring location ending up higher on the worker's back than it was before the fall occurred. This D-ring shift is often assumed to be 1 foot, but it can vary depending on the equipment design and the manufacturer. So read those manufacturer's instructions. It also would be affected by how the straps are adjusted by the individual that's wearing it. The back D-ring height. The D-ring height is measured as the distance between the D-ring and the worker's shoe sole while the worker's wearing the harness. This height's often standardized as 5 feet for 6-foot tall workers, and shorter workers would also be protected using this default distance. But it will be necessary to adjust the assumed back ring height calculation accordingly for workers that are taller than 6 feet in height. Then also the safety factor. This is an additional distance added to the total fall clearance distance to ensure that there's enough clearance between the worker and the lower level after a fall is completely arrested. The safety factor we generally consider to be about 2 feet. So before you use a personal fall arrest system, figure the total fall clearance distance by adding the values above, which in some cases may add up to an additional 11 to 12 feet to your free fall distance. As demonstrated in the past, if the actual distance measured from your back D-ring to the ground or other surface below is not greater than the total fall clearance distance you calculate, it's inappropriate to use the personal fall arrest system in the way in which they may typically be configured. So try to raise your anchor point or shorten your lanyard in order to achieve an acceptable fall clearance distance. If that's not possible, talk with your competent person to determine if a self-retracting lanyard, fall restraint system, or another means of fall prevention needs to be employed. So having thought about that, realize you can gain distance very quickly, and so we want to make sure that you are tied off properly and not allowed in a fall to contact any kind of a lower surface.